Hi, and welcome to PACE Monthly. Today we're going to take our time to talk about some of the things that are happening at PACE. And with me to my left is Deb Bulio, who is our Director of Planning. And to her left is Josh Amaral, who is the Assistant Fuel Assistance Director. So welcome, both of you. And let's start to talk. Let's start to talk off with the Fuel Assistance Program because I think that's probably most timely. We're just starting to get into the heating season as the nights get cooler. The days have still been relatively moderate, but fuel assistance applications for the most part have gone out in the mail. So Josh, talk about that whole process, how people apply for fuel assistance if they've been on the program in the past or if they're new to the program.
Yeah, sure. We're filming this on October 13th, and we've already seen a pretty good crowd of people coming in our doors. They've been lining up, going down the stairs, doing the things that they have to do. So if you're unfamiliar with the process, this is basically how it works. If you've applied before, for whatever reason last year or the year before, we generate an application for you. So that application is automatically sent out, usually in the month of August into September. I think we still have a couple more that are going out, but most of them are already out, so clients have them in their hands, and they're coming in to talk to us. If it's easier for you, you can take your application that you've received in the mail, add the documents that are necessary to it, like pay stubs or your Social Security benefit and a bank statement, those sorts of paperwork. There's instructions that are included with the application, and you can mail that off to us, so you don't have to come down to our office. But if you do wish to come to our office, that's fine. In fact, we're making appointments now for clients that want to sit down with an intake worker and speak with them, maybe if they speak Portuguese or Spanish or obviously English. And if you're a new client, that's kind of the same process. So you call and make an appointment with us. We'll sit down with you, we'll walk you through the whole process, and most people that come into our office, I'd say, don't have quite all the information they need. So we've built a resource on our website that goes into great detail about the types of documents that you can bring, what we need to see, because the last thing we want to do is send people out and have them coming back with paperwork. We want to make it as easy a process as possible. So if anybody has any questions, they could certainly call us. One of the more interesting things about the program, Bruce, is a lot of the people that I talk to don't realize that they're eligible for it. So in a household of one, the income guideline is $34,000. So if you make less than $34,000 and you live alone, you're eligible. So that's almost all seniors that live by themselves who are living on a fixed income. And then for a household of two, it's $44,000. For a household of three, it's almost a little under $55,000. So your average household of three in the city, I would say, is probably under that. So there's a big potential for clients to be served that don't realize they're eligible for the program. Actually, last year I went to the Buttonwood Park Senior Center, and I walked around and talked to some of the folks there, and most of them, their first reaction is, well, I'm not eligible for that. Thanks for coming, it's great, pass that on, but I don't think I'm eligible for it. Well, you are. Your income is well under the guideline, and they say, well, you know what, leave it for someone else who needs it more than I do, which is admirable, but it's unnecessary, right? Because the program's not funded that way. You get a fixed amount of money that's set in the budget for as many clients as we can possibly get in the door to do it. So you're entitled to that benefit, and you should come down and take advantage of that. And if there's anything we can do to help you, we're certainly here to do that.
Yeah, and traditionally we serve about 12,000 households in the greater New Bedford area. Last year we were lucky we had a very mild winter. There was a lot of people that came in, but there was no drama. Unlike previous years where we had real, long periods of cold and severe weather, people running out of oil, they ran out of benefits, people crying, really in desperate straits. How do I keep my house warm, and how do I stay warm myself? But the way the fuel program works is because it's geared towards helping the folks with the lowest amount of income. Things are sectioned off. So if you are at 100% of poverty, your benefits will be higher than the people at the higher end of the income scale.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's an important thing to know too. So if you're living by yourself and your household income is $12,000, you'll be eligible for our maximum benefit, which right now is about $800 for people that have oil or other we call it secondary type heating systems.
Deliverables.
But But if you have gas, it's about $700. And those numbers tend to grow throughout the year. They might go up in January or February, but they never go down, or very rarely. So that's where we're starting at this year. So if you come in and your income is $33,999, you're right at the top of the spectrum. You might be eligible for only $300 or $400. But if you are at $12,000, you might be eligible for the full $800.
Right.
And the goal of the program really is to be a supplement. So while some of our clients are able to make it through the whole winter off of the benefit,
Well, they
that
were
they're
last
able
year.
to-
Yeah.
Last year, right? That's not necessarily the goal. So people should continue to make regular payments, and they should use this. And hopefully, if they have any money left over, we're able to apply that to electric bills to maybe defray some of the costs of cooling in the winter. So, it's really a great program, and people absolutely should take advantage of it.
Yeah, and one of the things that we want to stress on the program is that these fuel assistance program pays heating bills, and there's a very small amount of clients that we serve that have heat included in with their rent, and they're still eligible for the program, and those are the only people that would actually get cash payments to them. But everything else is paid to the oil dealer, the electric company, the gas company, your coal dealer, and right on down the line.
Right, and we're very thorough, and we're constantly looking for new ways to be even more thorough as far as vetting those things. So, we're not handing out checks to everybody that comes in, and we're certainly not doing it without any backup or the appropriate backup. And sometimes I feel bad because we're putting clients through a lot to prove for
Provide that.
what is ultimately a benefit that might get them through a month or two. So it really depends on the situation, but yeah, most of our clients, almost all of our clients are dealing with a recognized utility company or an oil vendor in the city.
Yeah.
And you will also cover other sources.
Right, yeah,
Your
so if someone
price.
has kerosene or propane, wood, every type is there. And if there's one that we don't currently do, we'd be willing to, I guess, entertain it and see what we could do. One of the other things that I think we should talk about is the weatherization program. While PACE works in conjunction with Citizens for Citizens, there's more to it than just paying the bills. There's also reducing the bills. So how do you get your home to be weatherized? How do you make sure that you're running an efficient home? That's a really important thing, and that's something that we can help with, and we're happy to help anybody that calls us or makes an appointment with our office. We can get you to the right place. So if your home is drafty or you have concerns like that, that's valuable. And in addition to that, the heating system repair program is a huge boost to a lot of our clients, people who come in the door in crisis. You woke
Homeowners.
up on it, right?
Homeowners are coming. Yep.
You woke up on a January morning and it's really cold in the house and you're not sure what's going on. Well, your heating system is
Failed.
broken, right? And if you're a person living on a fixed income, you might not have the money to go out and spend $4,000 or $5,000 on a new heating system in your house. So that's something that we can help with. We particularly prioritize those emergency cases where there is no heat in the home and the person is not financially able to foot the bill. So we do more than just help people pay the bills. We help reduce them, and we help with those crisis situations.
That's a great resource. Deb, let's talk
Yep.
about something else. We'll get back to fuel assistance in a little while. Talk about something else that's happening at this particular time or just before this particular time, and it's the work that we do helping people obtain health insurance.
Right. We have open enrollment coming very shortly, and open enrollment is the time when folks can call us, speak to one of our certified navigators who will help them shop the marketplace for either a private insurance or Mass Health or some other low-cost health insurance plan. And on November 1st, Tuesday, the navigators will be working with the Fishing Partnership to put on an event. There will be the South Coast Health Van in front of the Pace Building on William Street. They'll be doing flu shots, pneumonia vaccines, cholesterol tests, so you can get your blood pressure done. And it's an opportunity to come and ask some questions about what to do about your health insurance. How can you get something that's affordable, that works for you and your family? The other piece of open enrollment has to do with Medicare. So for open enrollment for Medicare is going to begin October 15th through December 7th. We've been very fortunate to now have a senior intake specialist who can help those folks who have questions or concerns about their Medicare plans or wish to change their Medicare plans. And there is something going on locally with one of the large providers in the area. So lots of people are getting letters telling them that they may need to look for a new insurance or they need to change their primary care. And this is really creating some havoc with some of our elders. So we would encourage any elder that has a question about Medicare or any of the supplemental plans or needs to change their plan to give a call to the office, make an appointment, and the senior intake specialist will be happy to sit down, go through what you have, explain what you need to do, so that no one is uncovered.
Yeah, and healthcare for those people who do not get health insurance through their employer. Now that's really what Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act and universal health care in Massachusetts really address, because if you get health insurance through your employer, none of this affects you. But if you don't, or if you can't afford the health insurance through your employer, that's where the open enrollment period, where you then have to choose a different a plan and a provider, and payments, and there's tax credits to be figured out. So it's very complicated. So the navigators that we have are trained by the connector, the Mass Health Connector, the Mass Health Connector, and they can assist people to make those choices and try to get the plan that fits best for their lifestyle and their income range.
And that is pretty much done on the computer, no more paper applications, generally speaking. So the turnaround time is pretty quick. They will help people understand how to make the payments and how to use the plan, because having insurance is the goal for everybody, but using the insurance wisely is another important piece. So there's some health literacy that kind of goes on in the office as well. We do have language capability, so don't let that prevent anyone from calling us. And hopefully we'll have a good turnout on November 1st.
And it's unlike many of the PACE programs, there are no income guidelines.
There are no income guidelines. Anyone can call, make an appointment, come in, even if it's just want some information. You're certainly not bound to do anything just because you've come in to talk to someone. The Health Connector has recently sort of reduced the number of choices, which sounds like a bad thing, but it's a very good thing. In the beginning, there were so many choices. It was really difficult to navigate that. Yeah. People were very confused. They were overwhelmed. And so now the system is working better. It's much more manageable. And, also if you're a person who doesn't have insurance at all and isn't really interested in paying for a really comprehensive plan, you may be eligible for Mass Health. We can do that too. So there are lots of options.
And this year, the penalty for not having health insurance, it gets ratcheted up both on the federal and on the state level.
Yep.
And it is going to cost folks who don't have health insurance. Because when we do our tax program, we see a lot of young people come in and say, well, I don't get sick. I don't need health insurance. I don't have to have this, so I'm not going to bother with it. And then they get hit with a $700 or $800 or $900 penalty, and they're upset. But it's a system that it is still in the process of working the kinks out, and we move along. The other thing, in responding to some of the community needs of bringing in the senior health specialist, there's a lot of people like me, baby boomers. We, along with the millennials, are the largest population groups, and we're all aging out. Where, I'm looking at Medicare in next year, and I know nothing about it, and I kind of work in this field, so I need some assistance in trying to figure out, geez, what's the best options for me? So if there are folks out there who, have questions or, looking for some advice or just some direction on, geez, what are my options and what do I need to do? Those are the folks we need to call.
Those are the people who need to call and come in, so that if you're one of those people who needs to apply for Medicare 3 months before your 65th birthday, you still need to be armed with the information that says, well, okay, this company is covers the formulary of the drugs that I need. You know, this one doesn't. These are the co-pays. These are the deductibles, whatever the case might be. If you come in and get some information beforehand, when you get to Social Security, you will be well armed to select, you know, the insurance that's right for you.
Okay, we got a couple other events. We have something coming up because the holiday season's coming up, and there's always food drives and turkey drives and things like that.
Holidays are always seem to be right around the corner, fast approaching. PACE has an emergency food bank that also attempts to do baskets at Thanksgiving and also at Christmas. They've already started doing applications for Thanksgiving meal baskets. They'll be doing them until Friday, November 4th, so you still have time. If you come into the office, they'll be doing those from 9 to 11:30, and then again from 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We would encourage you to come in or call to find out what you need to bring with you. At the minimum, you should be bringing some identification, some proof of income, and proof of however many folks are in your household. I should say also that we do this in conjunction with some other community groups. So there might be several people, several agencies that are doing baskets around the holidays. It's become much more coordinated so that resources don't become wasted. In other words, double dipping is probably not going to happen. So we would encourage you to come and do an application. But if you do that, please, we would ask that you don't go and do it at another agency in New Bedford. Resources are, not unlimited, and we're trying to reach as many people as we can.
And last year we gave out about 500 to 600 turkey baskets on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, for the past 3 years, we've averaged around 500 households, yes. Yep.
That's great.
Josh, we have something else going on in the agency that happens every 3 years. This year it's kind of a little more ramped up, and not exactly a program, but it's a process that the agency is going through that we're going to be looking for some public input on. Can you talk about our strategic planning process?
Yeah, absolutely. It is some added work for us, but I think it's a really exciting time. So for those watching at home, the strategic plan is something the agency is required to do that's supposed to sort of lead our operations for the next few years. It's sort of, we've called it the roadmap. It's a roadmap for the agency to follow to make sure that we make the improvements we need to do, and ultimately to make sure that we're responsive to the community. The legislation that passed federally that established agencies like PACE and like Citizens for Citizens in Fall River calls for all those agencies to constantly evaluate and reevaluate whether or not they're serving the needs of the community. So we're here and we're talking about, baskets for Thanksgiving and Christmas, which I think we all understand there's a need for that. We're talking about fuel assistance, something to help folks with that, and we're talking about navigating the health options that are out there for folks that obtain medical insurance. I think these are all really critical needs in our community, and I think the numbers of people who use our programs support that. But it's also time to look and say, what other needs are there out there in the community? And part of that is to survey the community itself, is to ask people in the community, what do you think the needs are? What do you see? You follow the news, you live it, right? Are we doing the right things? Is there anything else that we should be looking at? Are there any gaps? Are there things that exist out there that are not being covered by anybody, or not being adequately covered by anybody? So a need that is going unaddressed in the community, because it's really our job to take those on when we can, and when we're in a good position to have success. So that's part of it. And then part of it, which we worked on in an early meeting today, is the internal needs assessment. So that's where the agency does some
soul searching.
Yeah, we look in ourselves and make sure that we're doing a good job, because ultimately a lot of our funding is public funding, and we owe it to the taxpayer, and we owe it to the funding sources that contribute to us to make sure that we're not only doing the right things, but that we're doing it well, and we have results to show for it. So I think we do a good job of that. That's my my working theory. I think PACE has demonstrated that over the years. But going through this process is going to be very informative, and it's going to lead the way for the period of 2018 to 2020 and into the future. So I think it's an important time, and I think all the efforts that we're putting into it are worthwhile.
Deb, what makes this year different than years in the past from your perspective?
Well, one thing that's different is that community action agencies like PACE are now subject to standards that you must meet.
Federal standards.
Federal standards that you must meet. And it's about being accountable. And it's about showing results. One of the things that's probably going to happen this time is the community needs assessment will be really widely distributed. Not only in New Bedford, but in the surrounding towns. A good part of our service area, maybe not all of it, but a good portion of it. At least Fairhaven, Acushnet, and Dartmouth, as well as New Bedford. We want to get as much information in as we can, because that allows us to do a couple of things. It allows us to see if we're meeting the needs that people are identifying. It also allows us to then make a plan with very specific goals that meet specific standards for results, measure them. It's all about measurement now, and see if we're meeting our goals and answering the needs that the community has said they have. Mm-hmm. It's really more about being responsive, but it's also about accountability through measuring results.
And it's a different kind of accountability because, I hate to say it, well, I guess I don't hate to say it, but I've been at PACE for 30 years. Mm-hmm. Actually, it's been 32 if you count the years I was at the Head Start program. And PACE and all programs like PACE have always been accountable for fiscal operations.
Yes.
Every single dollar that comes into the agency has to be accounted for, where it goes. We're audited every single year. Mm-hmm. We're subject to federal reviews, state reviews, monitor reviews, fiscal funding source reviews. At any point in time, we probably have some type of monitor in our program or looking at our program. But this kicks it up into a different level, and you had talked about accountability and measurement on the day-to-day, and now with the new federal standards that we have to meet, it does change things.
Well, it does, because the way that you look at how you provide your service may change, how you decide who the target populations are for certain things may change. We don't know. This is still sort of a work in progress. We are doing whatever we need to meet those standards, but we need input from the community. PACE is people acting in community endeavors. It's who we are, is what we do. So we need to hear from as many people as possible, whether they're clients or not.
And Josh, how are we going to get these surveys out to folks?
Yeah, sure. So we're going to really launch into a big push. We're finishing off sort of our preliminary meetings where we've developed the survey and developed the process for going about doing it. But I would anticipate as soon as those are approved and ready to go out, we'll be doing a press release. We'll be doing stuff on our website so folks can take this online. We'll also have paper copies available at our office. We'll be pushing them out to our clients to try to get their responses when possible. Mm-hmm. We may be putting them in some public locations, which would all be included, I guess, in the press release and the real promotion that we do of it. But the goal is to get, my goal is to get 1,000 survey responses. So 1,000 people in the community, be they clients or community members or people that work in the city and are familiar with it, mm-hmm. To get those sorts of responses so that we can get a really good sample size to look at. One of the interesting things now that technology is so good and database systems are so good that you can sort the information in a really creative way. So if we're looking for certain gaps in the community, we can look at a certain age range, a certain language spoken in the home, whether it's a homeowner or a renter, and then we can look at what part of the city they're in, and we can come up with a need in the south end of New Bedford for a medical health insurance navigator program, and maybe that tells us that we need to get away from William Street and have more activities down in the south end for people over 65 years old or something. So maybe that's an event at the library in the South End or something. So the way that we can use the data is really interesting, but that makes it all the more important. So I hope those watching at home are mindful of that and you're keeping an eye out. We'd certainly love to have your input.
Good. So the strategic planning process will go for quite some time. We're not talking about a month or 2 months. We're talking about a fairly extended period of time.
Yeah, there's going to be this period of doing the surveys. We also have to tackle the internal needs of the agency, and then we have to kind of compile all that information and analyze it, and then determine how we're going to respond to it, and how we're going to take action over the next 3 years. So I would anticipate it going through the next summer, at least. Right?
Through July.
Yeah.
And a little bit different than in the past. I think that when that report is completed, we're going to make every attempt to get that out to the public, to the people who gave us the information.
Put by our website or press releases or,
Sure.
or all of the above.
All of the above. We who have worked in done this kind of work for a long time, when they talk about needs assessments, look at each other and say, we know what the needs are. Because sometimes we think we do, but it's not up to us to tell the community what it needs. It's really up to them to tell us what they need.
You know, you mentioned the changing standards and how it's all about, showing your performance, measuring your performance. I think it is true, and I think one of the ways that's happening is it's no longer acceptable to just think and assume that a program is working because it sounds like a good program, right? So fuel assistance, right? It's a great thing. Of course, people are going to have problems paying their heating bills in the winter in an impoverished area, right? So yeah, that must be a good program. Health insurance. Of course, people need help navigating health insurance, right? There must be a need. Turkey baskets, right? All those things. But it's no longer good to just say, yeah, that sounds good. I'm glad we have that. You have to demonstrate those results. So is there anything about the turkey basket system or the Thanksgiving basket system that could be improved? I know we're doing customer satisfaction surveys now.
Very soon.
That's a big part of it. I would think that this sort of analysis is what led to other agencies coming together and saying, let's come up with a system so that we're not duplicating this. We're not giving out a basket to the family here, and at another agency we're giving the same family more stuff when we could be expanding that out. So it's we have to think strategically, and we have to show it. We have to prove it.
Exactly.
Right. Interesting. We have a minute left, and I told you I was going to do this to involve you. And we usually stay away from talking about politics, but this is the most bizarre political campaign that I have ever witnessed in my 64 years on this earth. So real quickly, I'd like you to say, who do you think Massachusetts is going to vote for the presidential election, and who do you think is going to win nationally, and by what margin? Josh, you were a political science major. You have a degree in political science.
Yeah, so I still keep in touch with some of my political science professors, and I talk to them, and I'm a little bit jealous because I kind of wish I was in school to go through the analysis of an election like this, because nobody's seen it, even political experts. So I'll say this. I think Hillary Clinton will carry Massachusetts handily, and I think she'll probably win the general election by about the same margin that President Obama had over Mitt Romney.
Which was significant.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see that again.
Give me a number.
62 to 38.
Deb?
I think the same. I think Hillary Clinton's going to take Massachusetts by a wide margin, and I think she will win the general election by a substantial margin that will still, though, not be large enough to make me not shudder.
And my prediction is that Hillary Clinton, I don't think it's anybody's surprise, is going to take Massachusetts. I believe she will be the next president, the first female president. I think it's going to be a lot closer. I think that the third-party candidates are going to take some votes. I think they'll take them from both candidates. I don't think either candidate will get 50% of the vote.
Wow.
So
Can't wait to see.
we're still going to have a divided country, and we'll see what happens with the election. But this is a real head-scratcher. Well, thank you for joining us, and we hope that you enjoyed the conversation here on Pace Monthly, and we hope you watch us next time.